Hi, good evening. This is Vince Williams, Vice President of Economic Empowerment and Director of the Small Business Development Center at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, and welcome to Economic Empowerment Television. Today we have a special guest with us, Mr. Marcus Yancey, with the Local Initiative Support Corporation, that's going to be talking to us about some of the collaborative opportunities that we have and that exist around Chicago. I'd like to talk to you more about our webpage. If you want to access more information about the YWCA, you can go to www.ywcachicago.org. Again, that website is www.ywcachicago.org. And if you put your cursor and highlight it over some of the initiatives, you'll see where you can talk and review a lot of the information that we have. Under our economic empowerment, you'll be able to click on that and see some of the initiatives that we have regarding career services, construction, financial literacy, as well as our business and entrepreneurship services that we do around the many locations that we have in Chicago, our 1,300 square mile footprint, and our new location here in the Illinois Medical District in Chicago, as well as our new location that'll be opening in the Roseland community. So, Marcus Yancey.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight on Economic Empowerment Television.
Thank you for having me.
I would love for you to introduce yourself to our viewing audience, talk a little bit more about your role as a program manager with LISC, also known as the shorter version of the name for it, and then we'll kind of go more and more into some of the initiatives that we know that you guys have. So
awesome. Good evening. Yes, my name is Marcus Yancey. I am the program officer for Local Initiative Support Corporation, the Chicago office. LISC is the largest nonprofit economic development organization in the country. We're across about 38 different markets. We focus on community support, so whether that's health, education, developing small business, we try to empower communities and be a convener where we can help communities grow and better themselves and revitalize some of the communities that are here in the Chicago area.
that's pretty outstanding. And you guys have been in the Chicago market for a little
40 years.
40 years.
Yes.
That's pretty outstanding. So making an impact in pretty much the 77 communities throughout Chicago, as well as those particularly that have been disenfranchised over the years. So the black and brown communities.
Absolutely.
South Side, West Sides, near South Sides, far
Yes.
South Sides, and things like that.
Yeah, so we do a lot of investments, so it can come through providing equity, supporting large development projects such as housing. So we look at new markets, tax credits, opportunity zones, that sort of thing. We also have some impact areas where we look at lending. So LISC has lent out, say roughly over the last 40 years, about $175 million.
Just a small number, huh?
Yeah, just a small number. And then have provided grants roughly around $135 million.
Okay,
Yeah.
outstanding. So I know at the YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, we really try to focus on a lot of collaborative opportunities with some organizations like LISC. And so, for example, we have community partners like Invest Southwest that's happening right now, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund that's going on, the Community Neighborhood Development Awards that I know that LISC does. We try to participate with that as much. And then also I know about financial opportunity centers that are also there.
Yeah.
So let's kind of go through some of those and maybe talk a little bit more in detail as to how that is actually affecting some of the communities that we're working with. And if you don't mind, I'd love to start with the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund. That has been one that has received a lot of press lately, and I know that the initiatives that have been taking off are great, and then we even have some other financial institutions that have been joining into that.
Absolutely.
So if you can speak a little bit more about that, that would be great.
So the Entrepreneurs of Color Fund started roughly about 3 years ago or so in 2017. So LISC have received a grant from J.P. Morgan Chase to support entrepreneurs of color on both the south and west sides of Chicago. So it's a really robust program where there's opportunity to receive capital support, so businesses that are growing, but there's also some technical assistance components that really support our entrepreneurs. So we partner with Northwestern, the Kellogg School. There's a 4-day intensive training class for individuals that are roughly in that $1 million range and have more than 10 employees. So if anybody knows, when you get to that stage, it gets really tough to grow and be able to scale. It gets a little bit more expensive. extensive.
Absolutely.
But then we also have partnered with University of Chicago's Polsky Center with the Small Business Growth Program, where they get paired with University of Chicago Booth students, and a professor actually runs the program to be able to support a lot of these entrepreneurs. So I think that's about a 6-month, and they just develop a plan and just work it through just to make sure that a lot of these entrepreneurs and business owners are meeting their goals.
That's outstanding. So that technical assistance is just what most of those businesses need to scale.
Right.
They may feel like they can't take it to that next level, but by having the expertise from some of those others and those community partners can kind of get them over that hurdle, if you will, if they've identified those or something else that
Right.
come into there.
And LISC is a really, it's just a great partnership. Axion Chicago is involved, so a lot of the lending that we do at LISC is for projects that are over $100,000 or more.
Okay.
And then anything less, we normally send that to Axion, as they are one of our community partners as well on this particular initiative.
Okay.
So yeah, it's been working really, really well, this partnership.
That's outstanding. Have you identified some additional ones just so that you don't feel like one is going particularly strictly or always to Axion? Are there some other partners in there?
Oh
You
yeah,
mentioned
absolutely.
JP Morgan Chase, the Fifth Third. I know some other financial institutions of that nature.
Absolutely. So we partner with several financial institutions. So they could be Providence Bank and Trust.
Yeah.
They're a partner. Summer Core. We work with them
Outstanding.
very closely,
Yeah.
especially in regards to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, which we'll
Absolutely.
talk about later.
Yeah.
We also look at who are some other organizations. JP Morgan Chase,
Okay.
U.S. Bank, First Midwest, and those are some of the people that actually invested close to roughly about $10 million in this program to provide capital on
That's
the
phenomenal.
southwest side of Chicago.
Yeah, that speaks volumes as to really where it is that these organizations that are putting skin in the game, if you will,
Absolutely.
to make sure that businesses are going to succeed and that we will end up seeing some growth and sustainability in the neighborhoods.
Right.
Phenomenal. So since you brought that up, let's go ahead and move on to the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, which we know is just an outstanding growth scale model, if you will,
Yes.
that we can use within the communities, in these disenfranchised communities, to provide more capital for these organizations to build
Yes.
and basically bring them back up to having economic empowerment or having an economic impact, if you will.
Right.
So you mentioned also working with the partner Summer Corps.
Yeah.
How does how does that partnership work?
It's a great partnership. So Summer Corps 504, they actually administer the NOF grant.
Yeah.
So once the applications are completed and then we move forward to, the selections, they kind of identify the entrepreneurs, the projects that they're working on.
Yeah.
And this is a reimbursable grant, right? So there's some upfront financing that needs to be done.
Absolutely. And that's pretty important for most people that are thinking of applying for this particular grant. And it also goes throughout the year, correct?
It is. There's
So,
2 rounds. So I
yeah,
believe the
there's a
first
couple
round is
rounds of
open
it.
now, and then there may be one probably that will open up again in early fall.
Okay, outstanding. So you were talking about just the process of once they apply for the grant, then it's awarded, but it's reimbursable.
It
So-
is. So depending on what the project is, so you can use costs for rehabilitation of an existing infrastructure, or you can use it for acquisition of a new
Build out
property.
and things like that.
Right, yeah,
Okay.
and there's some really good touch points to that as well. So there is a community wealth bonus. So if you do a project in a particular area, you can get a 25% increase. Or if you also
Because it's in this particular
yeah,
zone.
because it's in this particular
And you'll be employing those.
exactly. So if you hire people from the community, you get bonus points from that. If you actually live within that community inside that zone, you can also get additional bonus points. I mean, there's opportunities
And
to
that point,
actually
those points turn into additional revenue dollars that you can end up using. That's
exactly, yeah. So there's an opportunity to really get 100% of your project completed, but no more than $250,000 for the small projects grant.
Okay, that speaks volumes. And I'm not sure if you'll know the answer to this, but if I were to apply, or if one of the businesses were to apply for an NOF grant and receive that during this round, can they apply for the second and third round as well for maybe an additional project? Not necessarily the same project, but do you know if that can continue?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know that I've had conversations with the Department of Plan Development that runs the NOF program, and they said that, it's circumstantial. So depending on the project, how far apart, are the projects taking place, you can possibly reapply. But I don't think that you can apply back to back
Sure.
for the same project, or if it's the same ownership.
I understand.
So I think
they want to spread the love. If you
gotta spread it. Yeah, absolutely.
But I think it's just an outstanding opportunity for entrepreneurs and businesses to take advantage of something like this so that they can revitalize these communities that they're in.
Absolutely.
So that leads us now to, say, the financial opportunity centers that I know LISC is looking to partner and collaborate with other organizations to make sure that this inclusion and education regarding finances in the community is taking place.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have roughly, I think, about 14 financial opportunity centers at the moment, spread out throughout the south and west sides of Chicago.
And these are partnerships? Or
Yeah, they're partnerships. So we work with a lot of community-based organizations, and so what we do is we find these organizations to be able to promote wealth education. So through savings, investing, how to repair how to fix your credit scores to be in a position to borrow, how to manage just day-to-day finances. You have to be able to understand when you get a job, there's certain things that you can and can't do. You have to prioritize certain things like rent, food, etc.
Right.
So it's a really good, strong program.
And make sure. So it works with them to teach budgets. It works with them to teach financial wellness, literacy, and ultimately to decrease this wealth gap that that we've experienced, or that they may have experienced over the years. So it's a whole opportunity for those participants to take advantage of learning more about,
Yeah, and we're always looking for opportunities to grow the network as well, too. So, anyone that's interested, I advise them to go to LISC.org to try to get an idea a little bit more about the program and figure out if their organization can, support a program as such. Because a lot of people want to open up businesses. We have a lot of thriving entrepreneurs here in the city of Chicago, and you have to start with personal first before you get to business. So it's just that's the order that it goes. So we want to see strong financial literacy for a lot of our constituents here in the city of Chicago, so that we can take them to that next level and support them on their business ideas.
Okay, I understand that. And then that's going to lead us into the Community Neighborhood Development Awards. I had the opportunity to attend one of these. It's a pretty spectacular event. I think you guys did have the mayor that came out to it as well, that may have spoken, or a lot of community collaborations, community partnerships. I mean, I think there was maybe 1,000 people, if not more.
Yeah, if not more. It was a lot of people there. Yeah, it's one of our it's one of our highlights of the year. I believe it's occurring in April of this year, but we highlight a lot of community-based organizations that are just doing really great projects. So whether that's rehabbing an existing public infrastructure. So if it was, for instance, a Chicago public school that was closed down and somebody came in and just did a really great job in developing it and creating something for the community. So we do highlight those types of projects that are taking place. Even surrounding
nominations for it, or would you say that it's just something that LISC has identified as an opportunity for this recognition?
Yeah, so no, there are nominations. I believe it's closed now because we're getting ready to move forward with the selection process in preparation of April. But yeah, this is something that the community gets to vote on. So we don't sit back and, decide who we want. Exactly. We put it out there for the community. We send it to the organizations that are really based, deeply rooted, to really know the impact that the projects have on the community, and they select who they want to, apply for that, for the award. And, there is a selection process at the end, but we allow the community to select the applicants.
Okay. So just kind of, again, another great way to show how you collaborate within the communities, how you're reaching out to the communities, how you're recognizing these organizations, these entities that are thriving and scaling and bringing back the economic empowerment that these communities have been missing for years, if not, that's phenomenal. And this leads us now into the whole Invest Southwest, which is another opportunity that's going on in Chicago that involves 10 communities that have been recognized as being disinvested in. And where that leads is the opportunity for growth and scalability with particularly small businesses. And this can be everything from infrastructure on. So I think that ties greatly in line with a lot of the initiatives that LISC has in place. So can you tell me a little bit about that relationship? Is that something that you guys are looking to continue to push forward? And my understanding is that once these initial 10 communities have been or receive the funds necessary to start, then that will go to another 10 communities and then another 10 communities, which I think speaks volumes as to what we're looking to do and what type of economic impact is looking to happen within the Chicago marketplace.
Right. Yeah, so the that particular program is very instrumental to these 10 communities. A lot of them were really thriving neighborhoods years ago, so how do we get it back to where it used to be? So LISC is partnering with the city of Chicago. We support them in a great capacity to be able to understand how we can, leverage some of the resources that we have at LISC and implement those within the neighborhood to be able to support the Invest Southwest program.
Okay, that's phenomenal. Can you talk about, so again, we'll go back to the history of LISC and what they've been doing here in Chicago. 40 plus years, really looking to make an impact as far as reinvestment and what we can do to make sure that some of these small businesses are supported with technical assistance as well as financial assistance. How would you say that LISC looks to partner with certain organizations throughout the city? Like, are there certain criteria that they look for? I know, we're huge advocates of what you do at the Small Business Development Center.
Right.
I understand that you guys work with DCEO and some of the other organizations around. Can you talk a little bit about what you look for in organizations, or if there's other strategic partners that you would like to bring along?
So I think it's a combination of both. So we look at, organizations that are struggling, but then we also look at organizations that are doing things very, very well. What somebody's doing on the south side, they can be doing it very well, right?
Yeah.
And maybe on the west side, it's not done so well. So what we do is like to be a convener. So we want to say, hey, this is what they're doing, and you may be able to replicate this model and have some substantial impact in your neighborhood. So I look at LISC as being a convener. I don't think that there's too many people that we don't want to work with. We always have this strong belief that the community needs to tell us what they need. So we don't really have a guideline on organizations that we, want to work with. I think whoever comes to us, and if there's a need and they have a plan or want to have a plan for community impact, I think we're on board.
Okay. So then you can convene some of these organizations to essentially work with some of your existing partners.
Oh,
and
yes.
I think you had mentioned, how if they needed some particular financial work or access to information, then you have that partner that is Axion. And then, for example, the relationship with Summer Corps, to be able to facilitate workshops, or talk more about whatever initiatives that they have going forward with it too.
Absolutely. And I think we, and also, there's a lot of TA on the front end. I get a lot of people that come to me looking for business plans, business projections, and we don't necessarily provide that resources, but that's where places like YWCA and the SBDC come into play.
Absolutely.
I referred, several people to YWCA as well as other organizations to be able to get that type of support. So that's the type of partnering that we're looking for. We just want to be a great resource to direct people in the right place sometimes. We don't always need to reinvent the wheel and try to tell people what to do when there's already people doing it and doing it well.
It's not like we all have to do the exact same thing, but if we can partner together, and that's one of the things that I really like the viewing audience to know, is that these collaborative opportunities, there are a lot of them, but it's a great way for us to make sure that we are making a difference together.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
Let's go back to that Entrepreneurs of Color Fund.
Sure.
I just think that's pretty phenomenal. Can you tell us a little bit about one of the success stories? I think there's some organizations that you've worked with that have just really scaled and are making a good difference, received the funding, maybe even going to that. What exactly does that look like?
Yes, I mean one of our one of our projects that I really like and we're working on is with E.G. Wood on 63rd Street. It's in the Inglewood neighborhood.
Okay.
They're developing basically an incubator for small businesses out there on the south side of Chicago to be able to come in, look at different models of how they can run a business, and just a building that sits right on the corner, been there for years, been vacant, so they're coming in and putting an investment, but then they're also creating other entrepreneurs, which is great. So I'm very fond of that project. We also have another one.
So does that look like workshops, or does that look like...
Well, no, it's actually businesses will be in there. So workshops probably won't be taking place. I doubt it.
Pop-up environments?
Yeah, it could be some pop-up environments. There should be on the second floor, I believe there's going to be a consignment shop. So someone will be there selling some items. First floor, there will be a barber shop. And it's kind of a co-op model that they're running, which is really different. So everybody I think has some stake in the game as far as the barbershop. It's not just one owner; it's kind of a collective. And then there'll be an architecture and engineering firm, Beehive, that will be in the sub basement. That they are doing a phenomenal job on trying to figure out ways to impact not only neighborhoods in Inglewood, but throughout the south and west side of Chicago, identifying projects to be able to work on and provide some assistance when it comes to architectural design.
Outstanding. And that is one of the neighborhoods that's really been seeing a nice economic impact and growth potential that's been going on. I really am impressed with what many of those entities and incubators and small business development centers are doing. So does LISC try to identify these particular areas, or you guys are looking to partner? So for example, Woodlawn, South Shore, Roseland, some of these areas that we know have had a history, even the Austin area, that have a history of disinvestment and disenfranchisement. Are you seeking to have more collaborative opportunities like E.G. Wood? So that partnership would just be duplicated, if you will.
So we don't necessarily build too many partnerships with businesses per se.
Sure.
We look more so for the organizations that have already been supporting these businesses in some capacity, because they know where they're at in their business cycle, and so they can say, hey, Marcus, you know what, there's a great project that's happening right down the street. We've been working with this particular entity, and you should really take a look at it, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that the businesses that we work with align with the community's goals. And so that's when you have places like the Inglewood CDC, and coming together, Austin, North Lawndale Employment Network, and et cetera. They know what the community needs because they talk on a daily basis to the community. So we try to get behind those projects, and then most importantly, try to get behind the projects that the city wants to see done as well. So if you have the community, then you have the organizations, and you have the city behind a project. I mean, it can be impactful. There you go. It's collectively
everything. So that again speaks just words and volumes as to really what's happening and what impact we can make with it. So LISC.org is where they can go to find some additional information about being engaged, getting involved, finding technical assistance. In addition, with you all being a partner with us, being able to take that information and working with it. What types of things would you like to see in the future as a program manager for what they're doing?
I think one of the things that I would like to just see more impact, more collaboration. I've always been one of just like, how do we keep collaborating and create an ecosystem to support our entrepreneurs on the south and west side of Chicago? Like, be transparent, understand where your space is as far as like with lending, know what you do well, be able to be a resource to refer to other places. That's kind of what I see in the future. We're trying to do a good job and be a leader in that space now, and I think moving forward, that's really what I would like to see, just more of a collaborative effort from communities throughout the city to be able to support these neighborhoods, because we really have to revitalize and think about the future.
I agree with you there. So essentially what you're doing now is you're creating this separate but equal, if you will, ecosystem of community organizations that can help a community thrive, can help them scale,
Right.
can help them have access to the necessary resources that's going to keep them and help them to sustain.
Indeed.
And in essence, eventually build what I think ultimately everyone wants, which is this generational wealth
Yeah.
within each of the communities that we're doing there.
Yeah.
That speaks something else there. What else would you like to share with us in the audience about LISC?
I'm not quite sure. You got to ask me a question. But I would recommend that, the audience, that you all go out to LISC.org. That's our national website. You click on Chicago, just to be real specific, because there are some broad
And you're international
categories.
as well, correct?
No. Just
Okay, it's
national.
just okay.
Yeah, 38 markets here in the state. Here in the U.S.
In the U.S., okay.
Now, I guess we could be looked at international. We do have offices in Puerto Rico.
Okay.
Yeah, so we
Still
do a lot of good work down there. They're a community that, needs help with economic growth,
Yep.
with some of the disasters that have happened. And so we're
yeah.
there right behind to support them.
That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
That speaks words too. Okay, outstanding. So if they go to the website, LISC.org.
Or LISC-chicago.org if you want to go directly.
Okay, and then that'll pull up some of the information and some of the initiatives that they
Yes.
have working on here. Like you had mentioned, some of the technical assistance. I had mentioned before also how you can go to the YWCA Chicago's website, and you're able to see some of the additional information that we have there regarding the programs that we have, the construct programs, career services, and how you can take advantage of those to economically empower you here in the Chicago market. So some of the other initiatives and collaborations that we're looking to work with, and you had talked about Summer Corps being one of the Summer Corps 504 in particular, that we're looking to work with. These bring us to these opportunity zones that we can take and continue to work with. That's going to bring us back to that opportunity center. In closing, I'd like to mention more about what the website that you can go to.
Yeah, so over at LISCchicago.org, there's just a host of... LISC-chicago.org.
Perfect. I just wanted to make sure that the viewing audience was able to see that.
Yeah, so there you'll be able to see, everything that we do. As I mentioned before, we focus on, education, financial wellness, business development, economic development. Housing is another one. We also look at youth sports. We run a great program in the summertime called Hoops in the Hood, where
Love
we
that.
keep the kids out of the street, help them avoid violence by having a place to go to play basketball.
Yeah.
At the end of the summer, there's a huge tournament down in Grant Park. There we shut it down about 2 blocks, and yeah,
It's like that.
yeah, I
I
believe
love
it's 3-on-3. Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a great tournament, for the kids to do. So we're just trying to figure out different ways that we can impact communities. And if you see me out in the community, let's talk. I love to be able to discuss ideas. I think we're a growing organization, so we're always looking for ideas and opportunities to be able to do things different and give what the community needs.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, Marcus Yancey from the Local Initiative Support Corporation, thank you very much for coming out and explaining to the audience here of Economic Empowerment Television as to your organization, our collaboration, and what we're looking to continue to do and scale within the communities. Thank you for tuning in. Again, to find out more about some of the programming that we have and some of the new neighborhoods that we're taking advantage of, please go to www.ywcachicago.org, particularly /SBDC, to find out more about the Small Business Development Center and some of those initiatives. Have a good night.